Hello, 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 hello. Oh, that's gonna stop. Let's turn that off. All right. Hopefully that's better. In fact, we're just gonna go this route. All right. Wow, you guys have been chatting up a storm. And you're right, Tiger Wraith, I am not Chris. Chris, thank God for you guys, because if I had to sculpt your models, you would all hate it. A lot. It would be terrible. Terrible and hateful, and it would just be bad. You wouldn't enjoy it. Paint dry on the Badger. Colonel Kane, come on, you need to get to work on your Badger, Colonel Kane. You know you have one. It's you can't hide the truth from us. Hopefully the stream will be okay tonight. Hopefully. Unlike last week when my computer decided it wanted a new video card like right before the stream started. Well, that's not working. Let's see if I get this thing in focus. Maybe it's as good as it's going to get. All right. Everybody's here. Lots of people's here. So Ilmarin got his Badger all punched out and into a drawer. Oh. That's actually an image of John's Badger. I haven't broken mine open yet, so it's going to be a little bit, although maybe not as. I originally had planned to not put it together for a while, but I might have to change my mind. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. Ilmarin got your Badger all punched out and into a drawer. Gosh, I hope that's not a mistake. Parts. I would be afraid to do that. I would want to only punch out the parts I was putting together. So, good luck to you, Ilmarin. Yeah. John is working on that. I'm 100% certain. We're going to get some kind of a PDF here before too long. Yeah, absolutely. Hobby Habit. Yeah, let's read the bones. Read the Badger bones. We're going to see what the future holds. Happy Monday to all of you. Colonel Kane, a strange voice from the ether. I'm telling you, Colonel Kane, secretly there's mischievousness happening. I suspect there's something going on. Yeah, I did actually. I saw your pictures, Ilmarin. Again, not the route I would have taken. The Good Huntsman. Welcome in, everybody. Man, it's crowded up in here, which is kind of good because, to be honest with you, there's a couple of things going on tonight. So, I'm full of information. First of all, Commander Royce, which may be one of you, I can't keep all these names straight, over on Discord started. Cthulhu. If you managed to forget that today was Monday, that meant you had a fantastic Monday. How many times have we said, "Oh my gosh, it's Monday"? But if you had no idea it was Monday, it must have been fantastic. Good Huntsman. All right, you're Commander Royce, I think is what you're saying. Awesome. So he started this fantastic conversation over there about the Rock right before we came on stream. So hopefully we get a chance to talk about that tonight. And then I got some information to share, some questions to ask you to get your advice and opinions on a slow grow league that we're going to start up here in Tulsa in June. Beginning of June, we're hoping to start playing games at a little store that's going to open its tabletop gaming back up around May 15th. I stopped by and I talked to the owner today. The store's name is Dice Addiction. It's a wonderful little store here in Tulsa. They carry Cav on their wall. You can walk in there right now today and buy a Cav model if you wanted to. So yeah, things are looking up. And so I have some ideas about this slow grow league, and I'm going to throw them out here in a little bit. See what you guys think about them. See if I can get some feedback. Hopefully Cthulhu and some of the other locals will be able to join me in tackling this particular league. Gimli, man, you guys are out in force tonight. Must be like -30 where you are. What's forcing you all inside? It's decent weather around here. So anyway, yeah, that's what's going on. Badgers are starting to pop up, and we're actually talking about having tabletop games of Cav here in Tulsa on a regular basis. All right, so yeah, it's dark. People are afraid of the dark. Gosh knows I am. Time to get inside when it gets dark. Not really, but hey. So, where do you guys want to start? You want to talk about The Rock and how they're able to be successful despite the fact that they don't care a rat's beanie about camouflage? You want to talk about what a slow grow league looks like and how we can go at organizing it? Yeah, all right, good Huntsman. I that kind of makes sense now. You got a chance to listen to one of our old episodes, and you heard us talk about The Rock, all right. So let's just go there. All right. So, I mean, we all know The Rock. They don't really use. Okay, so Gimli, we'll come back around to that in a minute. But the one sentence answer to your question, Gimli, is in Tulsa we're going to run a slow grow league where we take some of the people that have played CAV before have signed up for it or at least expressed interest in it. But most of them are either they didn't get too many games in before COVID shut us down, or they just haven't played in a long time. So we're all super rusty, and we're hoping to draw in maybe some new players. And so a slow grow league is basically baby steps. You basically buy a squad, paint it up, play a game. 2 weeks later, you buy another squad, you paint it up, blah, 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 blah. Japanese anime on the screen. So sometimes, Colonel Kane, because we're not a big enough affiliate yet, they make you watch a commercial before the stream comes on. So maybe you're seeing a commercial. There's lots of cool animes out. I went to the theater and watched the Demon Slayer anime this weekend with my daughters, a couple of my daughters. Had a good time with that. So anyway, man, I feel like we're just way off base here. All right, so we're going to stop right now. I'm not sure we're going to get any painting done tonight, but that's okay because this is the thing I'm planning to do is probably going to go awry. So we just cross that bridge when we get to it. So first of all, we all know The Rock don't give a rat's beanie about camouflage. All right, they don't care if you see them. They're loud. They're proud. They're telling you what's going on. They don't care, and so in a conversation last Wednesday with John on the Wednesday stream, I asked him, do they really participate in espionage, in counterintelligence, that kind of stuff, and he had some interesting answers. So the gist of which is not a lot. I mean, it's not like they don't do it, but there are things about their life and their culture that prevent them from leveraging those tools in an external manner. And so it makes me wonder, all right, so we all know The Rock are a very serious threat. They're very competent on the battlefield. They're not to be trivialed. They're not to be taken lightly. How? I mean, so if you refuse to participate in some of the basic tenets of what I will loosely call modern warfare, sci-fi future warfare. So Hobby Habit, my understanding is they don't care. They will paint their calves like the World War I flying circus. I've heard John say that many times. They are not hiding from anybody. Do they have that technology? I think so. I mean, all the races are basically the same tech level in this game, to the best of my knowledge. I mean, there are some differences. Definitely Aidenese is by definition a higher tech, but you've read their stat cards, you've read the rules. They're not really that much higher tech than anybody else. I mean, their calves don't reflect it. The rules reflect it a tiny little bit if you get into the narrative part of the game, where you're using faction doctrines, but for the most part everybody has the same technology. Well, that's a possibility, I guess, Gimli. Numerical superiority is a possibility. The truth is we don't really know, right? And so that's what I'm wondering, right? They don't really do counter espionage. They don't really do intelligence. They don't really camo themselves. They don't do any of that stuff, really. And so, I mean, again, they're really badass warriors. But you pardon my use of the word badass. They're badass. But how many battles can you win based on that? I mean, if I see you coming from a mile and a half away because you're bright pink and you don't bother hiding the fact that you're about to invade Planet X on Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the morning, how do you consistently make yourself a threat on the battlefield? I mean, how? All right, I get it. Anybody, it's like anybody can win a game on any given day, right? So any force can, dig in, pull up their intestinal fortitude. They could just will themselves to a victory on any particular given day. But that doesn't work for dozens of battles, for hundreds, for thousands of battles. It just doesn't work, right? I mean, if you roll the dice, 2 6-sided dice often enough, you're going to get a 7. I mean, it's going to happen, right? And so those are not winning odds. But we know objectively that the Rock are freaking dangerous. So how do they account for this failure on their part to participate in these basic tenets of modern warfare? I think that's a fascinating question. I mean, I get that hobby habit. I see what you're saying, right? And Ilmarin, maybe that's it. Maybe just, one-on-one, they are better, okay? Maybe that's the case. But, I mean, generally speaking, if you invest heavily in elite pilots, right, in stacking your force up high, right? So you're high tech, you have, like just super well-trained pilots. Oftentimes what happens is you get beat by people that are using thousands of cheap and things, right? So the wide force can beat the tall force. I don't know, and that's the thing that's fascinating to me is we know there's a reason why they're successful. If let's go down a different path real quick, all right? What if they're not really very successful? What if they're fading? What if they're losing? What if in the long run they're on the back foot? Oh, so the Good Huntsman, I get it. They're not incompetent, all right? So, I mean, I'm assuming in general that they're not hamstringing themselves at every opportunity. But, I mean, the few things that we know about them, John has said time and time again, they'll paint their calves up like anything. They don't care. And I specifically asked him in last Wednesday's show, how do they deal with espionage? Do they do counterintelligence? I can't remember his exact words, but the nature of the answer was not really. So my question then becomes, if they are, if they're not experts or fully participating in some of these basic tenets of warfare, how do they make up for it? So Ilmarin, here's the truth. I don't know the answer to your question. Do they run small-scale decentralized groups? The one thing that I know, and I hope I'm not sharing stuff that I'm not supposed to, because John will sometimes tell me things that aren't necessarily public knowledge. So forgive me, John, if I say something I'm not supposed to. There's a lot of how can I put this? The internal politics of the Rock are very complicated. They're very dynamic. They are a race that is at war internally. And so that eats up a lot of their energy, their resources, a lot of the stuff a lot of their, how can I put this? It takes a lot to stay in charge of the Rock. It's a full-time job fending off your rivals. And so it makes them a little inefficient when dealing with external threats. Maybe they just don't have time for that stuff. So yeah, I don't really know the answer. I think there's a fascinating answer out there. I don't know what it is, but I can see that there's something going on. It's like, the Predators, like camo pattern in that movie, like back with Schwarzenegger, right? With Predator. I don't know what's in the jungle, but I can see there's something weird happening over there. I mean, the same thing's true of the Rock, right? Here you have these guys, or this race that is, we'll just assume they're the military equals of all the other races, because we know that they're very dangerous, yet they forego some of the things that the other races think of as just fundamental to any kind of military operation. So I don't know. I'm interested. Yeah, so there is that, right? I don't know how many clans they are, Ilmarin. The Good Huntsman, yes. John has mentioned that Rock equipment just works, right? So it's like the modern day version of the AK-47. It's just highly reliable, very effective, does what it does as well as possible, as simply as possible. And so it is very reliable. again, maybe they're just better warriors. I mean, so in my mind, right, I'm thinking, okay, let's say The Rock is the NBA All-Star team, right? So it's all the best. They're the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, the LeBron Jameses of soldiers. Maybe the ones that actually, survive to become this elite warrior class are just that good. That would be a cool story. I'd be okay with that. But we don't know that yet. I mean, we know they're good, but man, if they're so good that they can make up for okay, Huntsman, that's cool. So just insert whatever the right term is there. Maybe their warriors are so good that they just in any kind of 1-on-1, 1-on-2, 1-on-3 fight, maybe they're just capable of winning. You know what I mean? Again, it's not a technological advantage because, I mean, John has gone out of his way to, in the context of the game, make the races all pretty similar. I mean, when you look at their calves, none of them are significantly advantaged over the others. They're all basically the same. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of, Gimli. Again, there may be something else. I mean, so in my head, right, we all the people in this chat, we know what the Terrans think like, because that's who we are. We're Terrans, right? So these are just science fiction Terrans, right? So they have the same way of thinking about fighting. They have our society's level of expertise, all that stuff, right? So we have some sense of how good the Terrans probably are. So hold on. Hobby Habit has written an essay. Give me a second while I check his use of the Oxford comma. And they're far more unified due to the interactions and being beaten back by Terrans and Adenese. They practice to ritualize to decide certain conflicts, and a bored, unguided rock will go find trouble. Interesting. So yeah, Hobby Habit. There's, again, I don't know. I think there's probably a lot of truth in the things that you typed. I think we're in the right space. We just don't know what's in the corners of this dark room that we're in, right? So the Rock are in here. We just can't see what they're up to. But I find it fascinating. That's interesting. That's interesting. So Imran, you made a comment there. So they have a lot of elites they can turn up anywhere because they have a lot more functional units. That's interesting you say that, because so far in my head, I've only been talking about ground forces, right? Things that Cavs, tanks, aircraft, the stuff that we see in the context of the game that we play in Cav. John has said that the Ritter, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Tiger Wraith, if you're still here, I'm sure you'll know the answer to this. I believe the Ritter have the most advanced navy, space navy. Maybe advanced is the wrong word. The most capable because of its size and its number and its quality and its experience. And so when you say the Rock can turn up anywhere, can they? I mean, how good is their navy? We don't honestly know much about that. I was just... Tiger Wraith, hasn't John made the statement that the Ritter have the best space fleet or the largest or something along those lines? Yeah, you're right, Good Huntsman. And to your point, those things are all true in a narrow context, right? Ritter's the largest fleet. Okay, that's kind of what I thought. So I mean, Hitler at the in 1938 when he invaded Poland, he had the advantage of this new kind of warfare. And the right kind of weapons, and people weren't prepared for what he was doing. That works for a while, but eventually stuff gets pulled back, And I think maybe that's where the Rock are right now. Maybe their reputation is just that. Maybe it's a reputation. Maybe back when they kicked the Terrans' teeth in and almost eradicated them, that was their 1938 Poland. And since then, through the actions of the Adenese, the Terrans have caught up and the other races have set up and went, holy crack-a-moly, look at these Rock over here. Maybe we should think about our borders and what are we going to do with those guys? And now, maybe the Rock are like the Japanese. I mean, they came into Pearl Harbor and they punched us in the face and they had a chance to win within the first 6 months. And now it's been more than 6 months and the Rock are like, we can't win this. I don't know. It's fascinating. Well, I mean, you say that, Ilmarin, but if you run a blockade, do you run it in force? I mean, if you're just doing raids, okay, sure, you can slip through a blockade or you can slip through somebody's naval picket line. But, I mean, if you want to conquer a planet, take a planet away from the Malvernans, that requires... How much military does that require? Can you just blockade run that, or do you need to be able to project your force and maintain your supply lines and all that other stuff? I don't know. Again, nobody has the answers for these questions except John. And to be honest with you, I'm not 100% John knows for sure what the answers to these questions are. Yeah, it's Good Huntsman. Yeah, or the American forces in the Pacific with the Japanese, right? I mean, after that, after the Battle of Midway, it was like, hey, this tide has turned. You guys aren't beaten, but I think we see where this is going. Good God Almighty, Hobby Habit. Listen, 15 pages for your paper maximum. You write more than 15 pages, I'm going to take off. All right. Let's get that clear. You got to follow the rules. All right, let me read this thing from the Hobby Habit. Somebody take his keyboard away. Oh, no, not really. I love it. Yeah, Hobby Habit. There are a million. First of all, this is much like real world conflicts. The level we're trying to examine this problem at requires a multifaceted answer. It's not something simple like every Rock Warrior is the Michael Jordan of cab piloting, right? That's not the case. Come on, there are Rock guys that are just average. There are Rock guys that are superstars. Maybe they have a preponderance of superstars. I don't know, but whatever the case may be. The answer is complex. It's got a lot of things. It's got to do with their technology. It's got to do with the dependability, the durability of the stuff they're putting in the field. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. And again, I cannot wait to get John cornered in Cav HQ with the doors locked and say, okay, let's hammer this out. Let's figure this out. The people want to know. We got to get this Cav RPG thing ready. Yeah, Good Huntsman. So there's definitely two tiers to Rock Society. We know that for a fact. There are, I'm assuming, a very broad base of people that are not warriors, that are not part of the warrior class, that do the farming, the inventing, the engineering, all the stuff that a war economy requires. And then, of course, there's the warriors, and I guess those are the ones that are conducting these military operations. And the smash poets. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The first rule of Discussion Club is no one fights about Discussion Club. Gosh, this is a hoot. Who needs paint? I am not gonna have to touch a piece of this paint. Which is kind of good because I'm not sure how good this white is going to thin out to do these Zenithal highlights I want to do. All right. Left by the children's storm doctrine. Yeah, Ilmarin, that's and I think you're doing all of these ideas are fantastic. I want to get some of this stuff hammered into place so we know what's going on. All my paints are packed up, so you'll have to share my paint. Yeah, trust me, Gimli, I will suck at painting for you. No problem. All right, so let's take a deep breath here. Man, I should have got a drink. This is thirsty work. So the other thing that's going on is a local shop, Dice Addiction, which is a local Tulsa store that carries Cav on their shelf. Not the full line, but a nice selection. You could pick up a few things there. They're going to open up a new retail space. Yeah, Good Huntsman, we got to get John to, we got to pin John to the mat and count it, get his shoulders against the thing and have the referee count to 3 so he will so we can make him tell us stuff. But he's so damn big. I can't do it by myself. I need help. You people need to come in on Wednesdays and help me beat him up for some fluff. All right. Yeah, absolutely, Cthulhu. If we could just get it finished. Trademark coming soon. All right. So I'm going to share my ideas with you about this this Slow Grow League. All right. So first of all, just in case you don't know, a Slow Grow League is basically the idea is you have new players who have never played the game before, or maybe they played it a little bit, but they don't have their stuff ready. Okay. Yeah, seriously. He's got notes. They're all locked in his head. So the idea is, to teach people how to play and to get them to paint up their forces. And so really this is an idea that other gaming systems have used. I was kind of first introduced into it through Privateer Press's War Machine and Hordes. So generally speaking, the idea is, you buy a starter force, in our case a squad. You pick out the models you want, you assemble them, you get them painted, you play a game or two with them as part of the league, you score some points. A week or two later, depending on the pace of the league, you pick up another model or two, maybe a squad. Just depends on what your level of commitment is. You paint those, you play some models with those, you learn those rules, and then you move on and on throughout the course of the league until at the end of the league, you've got a playable force that's painted or pretty close to being painted, and you're ready to go. So you played this league, you participated with other people that are either starting a new force or they're brand new to the game like you. And so when you're done, you're ready to play just a regular game with a fully painted force. And so here's my thought process, right? So there's really two elements to this here. We need people to collect the models, to get them assembled and painted, hopefully. And we need to teach them the rules. And so here's my thought about how to go about doing this for Cav, right? So to me, there are four kinds of things I want to teach people, four types of forces I want to teach them how to use. All right. So the very first week we start out with an attack squad. Okay. Everybody buys an attack squad, 4 models, 6 models, somewhere in between. I'm not quite sure. Part of my thought process is maybe to encourage them to buy smaller models. Don't bring a Kodiak and a bunch of other stuff. And I could do that with points, or maybe telling them to only buy so many, things that are so many DTs, damage tracks. Not sure what the right way to go there is. That's kind of why I want to talk this out with you guys. And ladies, if any ladies happen to be here, there are a few that float around in the Caviverse. So and I said week, I don't really mean week, I mean the first round. So here's why, right? Obviously the specialist squad can be much smaller. I want to save the specialist squad to introduce ECM. All right. So I'm going to tell you can buy whatever model you want, but we're not going to play with the ECM rules the first week. We're just going to teach people how to move and shoot. That's kind of the idea, right? So they have an attack squad, whatever model appeals to you within reason. We get together, we do some hobbying, we put them on the table. We play some games. You learn how to move and shoot and how terrain works and how range band works and damage and margin of success and all that stuff, right? So then in week 2, we pick up a fire support squad. So now we've got an attack squad and a fire support squad, and now we learned about indirect fire and we learned about strike point rolls and we got all those things. And we still haven't introduced anything really complicated yet. There's no ECM or APA. We're not playing with any of that stuff yet. Now, I'm not going to tell people they can't buy models that have those abilities on them. We're just not going to use them. All right. Then in the third round, which is basically a month into the Slow Grow League, we pick up a specialist squad. All right. And this is where I encourage people to pick up ECM models. Right now, obviously, again, I'm not telling anybody how to build their force. If you don't want to buy ECM models, fine. But we're going to allow those rules. Now we're going to bring in APA and ECM and things like that. And we're going to learn those, what seem to me like crunchier rules, right? Things that are a little harder to grasp. And there's a lot of like fiddly bits. Do I have to be within range? Can I jam the jammer? All of those kinds of things. We're going to hammer all that stuff out in the third round. And in the fourth round, we're going to do flight squads. We're going to add a couple of aircraft, all right? And then we're going to learn how aircraft work, and we're going to see what they can bring to the table. And by this time, I mean, the aircraft in their own way are less complicated than the ECM specialist squad, right? I mean, they do have their own rules and they can do some funky things, but they're not as complicated as learning how to do ECM. And so we finished the league off with that fourth round, and so now you've got an attack squad, a fire support squad, a specialist squad, which might end up being a recon squad. We probably need to introduce recon in there at some point in time, and a flight squad. And now you basically got all the different kinds of forces that can go into a tournament list. Now, obviously, not everything is about tournaments, but those are the core rules, right? And once you've got those mastered, then you can decide where you want to go. Do you want to play ace pilots and add modifications to your cavs? Do you want to buy some infantry and do defensive lines and assaults, via Heinz, all kinds of things like that? Hey, Ilmarin, that's exactly what I'm here for. What you got? What's the issue? Help me out, because I'm sure I've overlooked something. I can hear you typing. All right, so that's my thought. It runs basically 2 months. Yeah, probably. Technically the recon squad is a specialist squad, right? And so the specialist squad, and maybe we don't introduce recon. I don't know. 6 of one, half a dozen of another. But attack and specialist supports fire support and flight. I'm pretty sure specialist is a primary squad type. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you can have a specialist squad that's also a recon squad if both the models are recon. Okay, again, I don't have the rules right here in front of me. So are you telling me a specialist squad isn't a primary squad? I thought specialist was a primary squad. Okay, so my idea is attack specialist, encouraging people to buy recon models in the specialist squad so they can do recon, and then a fire support and a flight. Infantry, we're just going to let those go until after the league, right? So, we get people through the basic rules, and then we'll just decide where people want to go after that, right? I mean, they will have had a couple of months in the game. They've played at least, hopefully, 4 games. They painted up 10, 12 models, somewhere in there, depending on how big they make their squads. And now they're ready to go whatever direction they want. Personally, I am ready to do some of this narrative stuff that would include infantry. The player base doesn't have enough cav experience. At least I don't think they do. Maybe I'm wrong. Certainly Cthulhu and his brother are very experienced gamers, by beyond veteran status, way beyond it. But we haven't played a lot of cav, and so there's a lot of those things that are just not really ingrained yet. And most of the other players that are ready to give this a shot haven't played much cav. And some of them very few tabletop games at all, and so I'm not ready to throw infantry at them just yet. Imran, I'm just a little confused. So I feel confident you can have a specialist squad that is also a recon squad. I'm pretty sure John has said that before. So you go week 1 attack, week 2 secondary fire support, week 3 specialist, which I think is primary. And if you want, you can make it a recon squad. You don't have to. And then week 4 you go flight, and I think that's a legal force. I think. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so that's an interesting. So, Imran, I'm confused about why the week 2 needs to be specialist. I mean, week 1 attack primary, week 2 fire support secondary, week 3 specialist, and see that's really my goal is week 1 teach people how to move and shoot, how terrain works. I say week 1, I meant round 1. Round 2. Continue teaching people how to move and shoot, but also bring in strike points and area effects and smart, templates and stuff like that, right? Okay. So So then week 3 is when, again, I keep saying week, sorry. Round 3 is when I want to stretch people's brains and say, okay, now we're going to talk about complicated things like ECM, maybe recon, and then week 4, aircraft. Yeah, good, Huntsman. So boot camp to get you ready to play cav and vehicles and maybe airplanes, and then infantry is for when you're ready to be advanced. Not that infantry are necessarily more advanced, they're just less central to what cav is about in general. I mean, cav is literally a cav game, so they're important, and I'd love to play some games with infantry, but they're peripheral, maybe. Imran, I'm going to assume that you're right, but I feel confident somewhere I've read or heard John say that a specialist squad that's comprised of recon models can be recon. Maybe that was in a previous version of the rules or something. Maybe I'm misremembering. I'll double check with John when I get a chance, or I'll pull out the rules when we get offline here. But I'm just going to assume that you're right, because it seems like you're very, very comfortable with this knowledge. 14 models. So good Huntsmen, let's talk about that. All right. So one thing that we need to remember is just because you choose a faction doesn't mean you can't break their favored faction number. Okay. There's nothing in the rules that says Malvernus can't play a 4-model squad, or Terrans can't play a 6-model squad. Now, if you're playing with faction doctrines, you don't qualify for doctrines then, but you can perfectly be any squad, any faction, and play any legal squad size, 4 to 6. Yeah, Cthulhu. Again, I'm just waiting. So I stopped by Dice Addiction today, and I talked to the store owner, whose name is Chip Knight, and we agreed in principle that we were going to shoot for this game, and we talked about some dates that would be available. His store is really busy. There are tons of people lining up to get a chance to get into a store and play tabletop games. There are people pounding on the door to get access to his tables when they open up on May 15th. He has a gigantic, of all things, HeroClix tournament that's going on. HeroClix is kind of a big deal for his store, but this thing is apparently gargantuan for HeroClix, the thing that's going to launch on the 15th. But yeah, so my hope is to drum up some new interest in the game. I'm hoping that somebody... I want to make the game visually very pleasing. So I've got some good-looking terrain. I guess maybe I'll throw together one of my badgers for those days when one of the Cthulhu or his brother can't be there, so we can have that big terrain piece out there, at least a talking piece for people to wander by and look at, those kinds of things. I do want to post and get some information about it, but I'm just not quite ready yet because I haven't got a hard commit from Chip yet. For one thing, his space is not actually physically finished. They're still remodeling it. And he says it's going to be done by May 15th. So hopefully early June 1st will be plenty of time for him to be done, but that remains to be seen. The last thing I want to do is pump something up and maybe get a couple of new players that are interested and then not have a way to satisfy their curiosity. So trying to, until I see just a little bit more progress from them and get a committed date and time from him, I'm not going to put anything out outside our little core group. Later tonight or tomorrow, I'll get in there and share my ideas in the Facebook group, and share with you guys the ideas that he had about times and stuff like that. The other thing we have to consider is how many simultaneous games can we run in there? Remember, Cav is a really big. It's a hog when it comes to tabletop space in a retail store, and so I'm not sure we can get in more than a couple of games at a time. I've got all that stuff already, Cthulhu. I've got the demo kits downstairs, plenty of Dictator Bees and the rules to hand out and stuff like that. So yeah, we already got that part covered. Back before the COVID thing, not on a regular basis. I would just run demos for people who seem like they would be interested. Kyle Kohler is a local guy who I played mini games with, and he was super excited. He kicked my butt the first time we played. It was ridiculous. Oh my gosh, that's a fun story. He just kept repairing his Revenant, and I couldn't do enough damage to it. My butchers ran out of ammo because they had no damn ammo essays. It was fresh. I got my butt handed to me. But anyway, so yeah, we were having a great time doing those demos, but COVID happened, and so then we had to stop. I am literally not paying anything tonight, obviously. I'm too excited to talk. But that's what this is. Plenty of times I would go to paint day with all my painting stuff. All I would do is sit around and talk. We just have a good time, drink a beer, and just hang out. And I don't know, I might actually put a little bit of paint on a model, but not much. So yeah, this is just like those times. I own all the models, and I'm painting none of them tonight. So yeah, that's what I have in mind for a slow grow league. And whatever the exact composition is, my goal is to teach how to play an attack squad, how to play a fire support squad, how to play a specialist squad that includes ECM models. So really that's yeah, the Tiamat will teach you to spread out. Let's talk about that in just a second too, because I want to share something from the CavComp battle with Master Guns versus Tiger Wraith. Just a great example of that. But so I want to teach how to run an attack squad, how to run a fire support squad, how to run an ECM models in, I guess, a specialist squad, and then how to run airplanes. And I think if I can teach people, if I can get everybody to the point where they're comfortable doing all four of those things, and they're ready to just play their own games at that point in time, and then I can jump in and play. We can start talking about maybe doing a narrative campaign, something that might include infantry or like the fortifications, or who knows. I mean, there is so much stuff in the back of the rule book that even after a couple of years, I have never really had much of a chance to mess with. Cav is still a new game. There's still tons of things there I've not even touched. All right, so here's the observation about that Tiamat, right? So, and this is true about indirect fire in general, right? The strength of indirect fire is when you get to attack multiple units with one attack with one activation, right? So normally you point a Mac at an enemy, you roll some dice, you do some damage, right? That's what you get with a direct fire weapon. With an indirect fire weapon, you get the same exact activation, but if you're we'll just say lucky or devious, you can with one activation hit 2, 3, 4, 6 models at the same time. And you are basically leveraging that one activation into, the equivalent of 2 to 6 activations. Yeah, yeah. And plus the Tiamat hits like a Mack truck if you get the right die rolls, right? It's got rocket 20s. What, 4 of them, I think? I'm not sure. At least 2. I think it's 4. And so, if you're not super careful, right? If you stick your models into a choke point and the Tiamat player happens to get lucky and land his strike point roll, he just turned that one weapons activation into the equivalent of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 separate activations. And you could just get your whole force just hammered right off the bat. And, 4 rocket 20s, right? If each one of them only does 1 point of damage to 5 models, you just took 20 damage tracks worth of damage out of your force. That's bad. That's really bad. And it can get a lot worse because you can design an indirect fire supports or an indirect fire squad in such a way that, after that first guy lands his strike point, nobody else has to roll. They just start hammering damage into whatever's underneath those templates. And here's something, a trick that I thought of. I'm sure I didn't create it. I just happened to occur to me one day. Is because an area effect template has because an indirect fire has area effect, you can reach around corners with that thing. Let me show you what I mean by that. So let's pretend like Captain Marvel here is a building, right? And so here's this Cav who's literally hiding behind the building. Let's make sure this is on one line right here. And so my line of fire is coming from this direction, right? I can't see this model, right? I can't see this model at all. But what I could do is with my area effect is I could place this area effect right here so that it will touch this guy, right? And because I can see the point I fired it at, I get a +1 for having line of sight to my target. Now my target is the point on the ground where that template goes, right? But it's reaching around the corner, around the edge of this building and hitting a model I can't even see. and I'm getting a +1 for having line of sight to my target, even though I'm really targeting this guy over here. There are lots of little clever tricks that you can pull off with indirect fire. So, and I'm sure there's a million of them I haven't even begun to think of. So there's just a lot of things to learn. The Tiamat touched me inappropriately. Yeah, it'll do that. And it's funny you mentioned that because one of our players, Pinky Princess, one of our a lady who loves to play Cav, she was one of the first people to respond when I posted up about this Slow Grow League. She loves her Tiamats. Oh my God, she will abuse you with those Tiamats. Yep, Cthulhu passing on some knowledge, just like brothers always do. Declare at the beginning of the activation that this guy is shooting and the others are taking that point, or would you be able to call that on the fly? That's a great question. Let's think about it. Let's try and break that down. About sharing the strike points. All right, first of all, I think that requires that we all have fire control system. Is that it? Fire control. Gosh, I should have came prepared. I don't have my Cav book here in front of me. Does one of you have that cheat sheet handy that John has here? I guess I'll Google it since that's all we're talking about today. Let me throw this over here on Talon Games. Talon Games. Downloads. Where am I at? And now we want the cheat sheets. I should just keep these handy now that I think about it. All of the in-game special abilities. That's the one I want right there. All right. Now let's blow this up so I can actually read it. So fire control system requires 2 or more fire control system equipped models in the squad to use +1 to +2 per strike point roll. So it must be chain fire pod. Chain fire pod requires active target lock. Model may share a successful strike point with other chain fire pod equipped models in a squad. Hobby Habit. You're like the thermonuclear typist, just ridiculous. All right. Yeah, so the entire squad must declare. So let's think about that for a second. I don't know the answer to this question. So if I have a squad of 4 models that are all equipped with chain fire pod, yeah, I believe you, Hobby Habit. I totally believe you. You're probably the rock AI. You were probably all doomed. Crazy AI. So I've got a unit of 4 models, right? Here, let's, do I have? Not really. Don't have calves. All right, so here. I'm a unit of 4 paints. Are we still broadcasting? Is there still any video changing? Have I locked up? Nope, something. All right, good. So the question is, Tiger Wraith, when you have a squad of models that have chain fire pod, do you have to declare that you're using the strike point of like the first model at the beginning of the round, or can I declare strike points individually? How does that work? Yeah, these are actually oil paints, but that's okay. It's the same thing. So we're trying to puzzle out how chain fire pod, how we have to declare our strike points during chain fire pod. All right, so if we want to use the chain fire pod, we say, okay, model A is firing first, and he's firing here at this particular point. We're all going to chain into that. So let's say that guy misses, Tiger Wraith, okay? So the yellow paint Cav misses. The other people that wanted to chain fire in on his hit, are they just messed up? They can't shoot now? Did they get to declare a strike point? How does that work? I mean, you said here in the chat, other models can get their own strike points. Is that, so I can wait and see if that guy misses? And then I declare strike points with those other models? Or do they just use his strike point? I mean, so there's going to be a strike point, right? Assuming the guy doesn't run out of ammo or something dumb like that. whether the guy deviates or not, there's going to be a strike point somewhere on the table, right? Whether it's the point he declared or the point where he rolled to because he missed, there's a strike point somewhere. Once we declare that we're going to share his strike point, is that the point from which we all get, even if it's the miss, right? We're all targeted into that miss. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Do we have to declare smart all at the beginning before the strike point roll? I think John has said anything that is dependent on the die roll has to be declared ahead of time. So the hobby habit, so target lock is essentially you taking an action to declare that you're focusing your sensors on a location so you can activate your targeting computer. And a strike point and a target lock are not the same thing. The strike point is the point on the ground where you are directing your indirect fire attack at. Now, this gets a little muddy because you can target lock, or at least you used to be able to, correct me if I'm wrong, you could target lock a point on the ground to then turn on your targeting computer to improve your strike point roll to land your indirect fire shot where you want it. So they are not the same thing, but one can influence the other. I believe it does. Requires an active target lock. Model may share a successful strike point with other CFP-equipped models in squad. Well, let's break that down. Hold on a second. So it says, and this is the abbreviated version of it. I'm reading directly from the cheat sheet. I don't have the book open. And the cheat sheet of about Chainfire Pod says requires active target lock. Yeah, the successful part's where I want to go next. Model may share successful strike point with other CFP-equipped models in squad. So if you deviate, no sharing? Is that what that means? And Tiger, I mean, unless the errata says otherwise, the Chainfire Pod seems to require a target lock. There we go with the hobby hat and his thermonuclear typing skills. We're going to start calling you Barry Allen because you type so fast, Flash. Yeah, that successful word, I've never really paid attention to that before. So if I deviate, is that a failed strike point? All right, so now you're just a cheater. I get it. Go ahead, hobby. And then I guess we have to ask, what does successful mean? So, like, if here's my target, right? Let's see if we can do some diorama stuff here again. All right, so we've got a cav, and we are shooting at him with our strike point, right? And we say, okay, we're going to put the strike point right underneath him. That's our strike point. But we deviate, we miss, okay? And this thing wanders over here so it doesn't touch him. That's clearly not a successful strike point. So I think, but by the wording, by the reading, we would have to say this is a not successful strike point and you can't chain fire into it. But what if it deviates enough that I'm still hitting him? Is that a successful strike point? I mean, I missed. I rolled a very small deviation in a very lucky direction, and I managed to still hit. Is that a successful strike point? Man, where's John? Somebody call John and tell him to get on here. We got questions. We're not putting up with this anymore. We need support. I don't have the errata handy. Sorry, Tiger Wraith. I didn't realize we were going to do this kind of thingy. Do you have it open? Can you advise us? Hobby Habit, put on your flash suit and run over there and type in the entire errata while we're waiting. Come on. You could do it. All right. So I guess maybe I can grab it real quick. Hold on. See if I can figure out where this is. Never mind. Errata. To the rules. Let's open this up. What page is it on, Mr. Tiger Wraith? Can you direct me to a page? Ilmarin, that's an even better question. That's an even better question. Is this? That's not what I want. Let's see if I can do this. Page 9. I will. How about that? So here we go. Page 56. Strike point roll clear. Can a strike point be an enemy model as part of an indirect fire ranged assault? No, strike points are always a point on the game board. What is the difference between a declared strike point and a final strike point? A declared strike point is where you want the attack to land. The final strike point is where the attack does land. I'm reading. Sorry it's so quiet here. Listen to the rusty grinding sound coming out of my head as the gears move. Okay. Okay, does it matter if the strike point was the result of a drift? Yes, a strike point that results from a drift roll is not eligible for an automatic hit as part of an attacking. But that's talking about consecutive turns, firing in consecutive turns. Huh. All right, so that answers the question then. There we go. You have to actually hit. So if you drift, there's no chaining in. So Tiger Wraith then, in the case where we've got 4 models and the first model to fire that we all said we wanted to chain in on, if he misses his strike point roll, do we just not act? We just don't get to shoot? Is that the way that works? I mean, I think Imran, I think you've got the right of it there. So the first model declares his strike point rolls, and if he misses, the whole squad is just kind of messed up. Let's think about that. No, the others are allowed to go for their own strike points. So interesting. I'll have to give that some thought. I mean, I think you could make an argument either way. I don't know what the rule is supposed to be. See, I mean, one of the principles of CAB is that you're supposed to declare all the stuff that's dependent on die rolls before you make any die rolls. Yeah, that's kind of what I was leaning towards, Tiger Wraith. Thanks. Gosh, you're so useful. Tell whoever loves you the most that we love you a lot too, because you're just freaking useful as heck. Man, this has been super educational and very unpainty, but that's okay. I will do some painting later in the week. Maybe I'll paint during the Wednesday stream and tell John, "Ha, take that." All right, so let's summarize where we've been tonight. So we talked a really interesting ton about the Rock and who they are and what they are doing and how they managed to be successful. And I think the only result we got was that, man, we're excited to find out what the real answers are. But there were a lot of really good ideas in there. Man, Tiger Wraith, that is a terrible penalty to pay. Oh, yeah, and why the Rock named that? I forgot about that. You guys were so funny over the weekend. You were cracking me up. It was ridiculous. ridiculous. I love it. Maki roll, absolutely. And, you know, it's funny because this weekend I went for the second time ever. I had sushi this weekend. It was really good. But I don't know anything about it. So I'm guessing a maki roll is a sushi. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out my left ear. But yeah, so there was that text meme business that was just hilarious over the weekend. You guys had me going for sure. All right, so we talked about The Rock, and we were all excited, and we're going to jump in Wednesday and refuse to talk about whatever John wants to talk about, and we're going to make him tell us why pizza is the most famous rock drop ship of all. Pizza, the pepperoni-nosed badger. Anyway, then we got in this really fascinating conversation about, before we got into the indirect fire question, we were talking about slow grow leagues, and I'm excited to get to play. I don't care who I play against or what we end up playing. I'm just excited to roll some dice, but I'm even more excited to see other people excited. And then we had this really interesting discussion about indirect fire, and man, that is a terrible penalty to pay. I mean, if your squad says we're going to chain in and that first guy misses, that's just awkward as heck. So man, that first guy, he's got to have every advantage possible, because I mean, so indirect fire, Cthulhu was talking about it earlier, can get that sort of unanticipated force multiplication when you manage to shoot once with one activation and hit 2+, 3+, 4+ models. Apparently there's the reverse of that too. You could declare chain fire and miss with the first guy, and the rest of the people are just standing around doing nothing. For now, Tiger Wraith, John has said on a couple of occasions that's going away. I'm not sure what his plan is, but he said that's definitely going away. Yeah, probably good huntsman with any kind of decent rolls. Yeah. Akula in Merc squads. Man. You just have to talk to John. He said during CavCon that he was going to change that rule about the 10+ roll so that I think he said so that you actually have to do the math. There's not going to be an automatic 10+ is a success anymore. But I can't quote him, so just hit him up in the chat, get him to explain that, because honestly, I'm not sure what he meant either, but I clearly heard those words, or maybe I'm old and I'm hearing things. That's entirely possible too. But seriously, double check with him on that, because I think he said those 10+ rolls are going away. Man, that is just crazy. That is just crazy. The Akula looks like a fun squad. I mean, I hope we get a chance to play at ReaperCon. Just some fun games, if nothing else. Just some stuff where we can blow some models up. I'm excited. All right, guys, I'm going to get off of here. I don't feel bad about not painting at all. I feel like this conversation was way better than any painting I was going to do. So thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for being excited about the game. Gosh, I hope your stores are starting to open up too. I'm so beside myself looking forward to this game that we're gonna hopefully get in June. Target lock can give a full squad of them +6 on the roll. Yeah. I mean, it gets to the point where it's hard to miss. But if you do miss, yeah. Thanks everybody. I really had a good time. Enjoy have fun. Be good to each other. Be good to those around you. Just real quick, for those of you who are still around, I took my daughters out to dinner before we went and saw the Demon Slayer movie, and a young prom couple came in and sat next to us, and so we paid for their dinner without telling them. We just told the waitress, here, let me pay for their dinner. So like I said, be nice to people. Make them smile. It'll make a lasting memory. Maybe it'll make the world a tiny, tiny little bit better. Anyway, see you all on Wednesday. John will be here Tuesday, and Chris, exciting sculpting dude, Saturday. Talk to y'all later. Bye.